Hello, it's Plant Life Forever 69 and today I thought we could talk about how to look after your Albany Pitcher plant or the Cephalotus follicularis. So let's jump straight into the video and find out how to look after your Ceph. So this is my baby, my little Cephalotus follicularis. Aren't they just absolutely gorgeous plants? If you want to have a look at Triffid Nurseries, that's where I got this from, and it was about 20 quid. For the size, that's really good, and it's even got a little baby Ceph growing in the pot there, so when that gets a bit bigger I can separate it and then I will have two Cephalotuses. Cephaloti. So how to take care of these guys? Well, first thing, they're called the Albany Pitcher plant because they come from Albany in Australia, and that's the only place. There's like a 30 square mile radius around Albany in which you'll find them, and you won't find them anywhere else in the world. So yeah, they're pretty niche little guys, I guess. They actually evolved independently of Nepenthes, which, if you aren't sure what one of those is, this is a Nepenthes, and so they have the same kind of pitfall trap mechanism. Sorry, my camera fell over. This is a Nepenthes. It's a tropical pitcher plant. This is a ventricosa. I thought it was a sanguinea, or a sangria as I called it in the previous videos. But yeah, the guy at Triffid Nurseries informed me that it's probably actually a ventricosa and not a sanguinea. Nepenthes grow up trees. They're like hanging plants, that's why you see these are hanging. And these, Cephalotus, the Albany pitcher plant, they sit on the surface of the substrate, so they grow on the ground. So that brings us to the next thing about the soil. So these guys do need a really well draining soil, and obviously it needs to be a carnivorous plant mix because, as I've said before, carnivorous plants evolved to be carnivorous because they grow in really poor soil where there's no nutrients there for them, and then they have to catch insects in order to get the nutrients that they need to grow. Use a carnivorous plant mix. It's recommended that you use one that's got a lot of sand in it, and as I said, really well draining soil, because these guys don't like to be kept too wet. So that's another thing about them, is the watering. I do have mine in a tray, but I always keep it, a very shallow tray, and I let the tray dry out between waterings. I don't let the soil dry out between waterings, just to make that a really clear distinction. Never let the soil dry out, always keep that moist. However, do let the tray dry out between waterings, because otherwise these plants can be susceptible to root rot and also crown rot. So I recommend, if you're not going to fully use the tray method, then please at least water them from the bottom. Just pop them in a little tray of water for a bit, let it soak it up, and then I wouldn't top water these plants personally. It's also recommended that you dress the soil on the top with some gravel or something like that to prevent the pitchers from rotting just on the surface of the soil. So the next thing that we'll talk about is light. These guys can take anywhere from full to partial sun. The more direct sunlight they have, the more colour they start to have. So some of them are blushing a little bit, and that's because they're not only mature pitchers, but they've also been getting some sun. If they don't get a lot of sun, then they'll be green, just like this new one here. So now about the climate that you want to keep these guys in, so the temperature and the humidity. These guys don't like it to be too humid. They don't like it too humid. I keep mine at about 50%, purely because these guys are quite susceptible to things like mold, things like that, and when you have the humidity up high, that's when you get things like mold starting to form. I like to keep mine at about 50%. It's comfortable for me, it's comfortable for them, and yeah. They also enjoy room temperatures, so about 23 degrees, that's perfect for them. They do like a tiny drop in temperature overnight, so just a warm day and a slightly cooler night, but not cold nights. They can survive a brief frost of up to about -5 degrees Celsius, but only a brief frost. They grow in Australia, so they do like it to be warm. Dormancy, so these guys aren't temperate plants in the same way that Venus flytraps are. They are temperate plants. They do have a dormancy period in winter where they stop putting on as much growth. They slow down a lot more, or they stop growing altogether, and in some cases they may even die back, but not in the same way as with Venus flytraps have their dormancy. They look like crap throughout their dormancy. They start turning black, and it's probably just going to be more of a stop growing, stop picturing until the spring and summer comes back. If you're using lights, remember to shorten their photo period as you get into the autumn and winter months. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant now, because people say that these aren't beginner plants, and I don't agree with the term beginner plant, because there are no beginner plants. It's just not a thing. If you know how to look after a plant and you do everything to make sure that it's happy, then there's no reason why you can't keep this plant. I'm sure that the only reason that they say this isn't a beginner plant is because they are a little bit more sensitive than other plants. They throw a bit of a hissy fit sometimes. If you overwater it, or you give it too much heat or too much humidity, then they sulk, and they can even look like they've suddenly died. But actually, sometimes they can come back from that. So if your Cephalotus has gone into sudden death mode, don't worry too much. Just keep it there, water it as normal for the next few months, and hopefully you should see it start to come back to life. It's the beauty of a rhizome, so don't throw that away. But that's why it's frustrating, right? If you're a beginner and you just want your plants to thrive and it suddenly dies, you're going to think, you know, it's the patience, and when you're a beginner you just want to see your plants grow and do well, whereas Cephalotus, you need a bit more patience to sort of get through it. And yeah, but as I said, there's no such thing as a beginner plant. It really annoys me that people say, oh, it's not really a beginner plant, you shouldn't really have that, because it's like, no, if you can provide that plant with the care that it needs, then there's no reason why you can't have that plant. Just make sure that you've read up on it and you know how to do watering and you understand light. That's not a difficult thing, guys. There's so much guidance out there on the internet. There's so many places where you can just ask questions. I don't think there's such thing as a beginner plant. So if you want a Cephalotus, you go get yourself a Cephalotus, because they are adorable. Super cute. So cute. I love them so much. So if you can provide the care for these plants, obviously go ahead and get them. Don't listen to the people that say they're not beginner plants. You just need to take the responsibility in caring for them. And yeah, that's the same with absolutely any plant. It's not as if it could kill you if you did something wrong, or, you know, the slightest thing, it gets cold for 5 minutes and it dies. It's not that bad. Like, it's not like a calathea. That's the one plant that isn't a beginner plant. I take it back. I don't like calatheas. Yeah, no minerals with all carnivorous plants, please. Absolutely none. So distilled water or rainwater, that's what you can use to water them. Soil should have no nutrients in it either. You can get a carnivorous plant mix from garden centres or online retailers. And one more thing, actually, if you see that your plants' lids, the lids of the pitchers, if you see that they're closing, because they do close if there's something wrong, that means there's something wrong. It's normally that it's too hot or it's too humid. It's basically just a sign that the plant is under stress. So if you do notice that, then act quickly before your plant decides that it wants to suddenly die. So yeah, that's the last thing about these guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and get a Cephalotus. Get one. Okay, thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you have an amazing day, and subscribe to Plant Life Forever 69. Okay, thanks. Bye. So cute. Oh, I love it so much. It's so adorable. It just looks like a bunch of little penguins, or little alien penguins. Cute.